letting go of the physical representation of a season in your life that has expired will create an emotional release that opens up the space for healing. I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself. You're listening to the Redefining Wealth podcast with Patrice Washington, and today is so special. This weekend, I am celebrating 7 years of the Redefining Wealth podcast. 7 years of sharing with you week after week after week that this journey is not just about chasing money. We are here to pursue purpose. 7 years of sharing with you that wealth is so much more than just money and material possessions. The original 12th century definition of wealth is the condition of well-being. And I am so excited to say that 20 million downloads later, 7 years later, 380 some podcast episodes, over 200 guests, and I am still here and still so excited to be with you. Who would have thought that one suggestion from a radio executive back when I was on the Steve Harvey Morning Show doing my Money Maven segment every single week on a nationally syndicated show, that a radio executive merely suggesting to me that I should also have a podcast to extend my 4-minute segment would turn into this community that we've built. Now we have the Redefining Wealth app, which if you are not there, you are welcome to come in to that space for absolutely free. It's an international community of thousands of purpose chasers. Who knew that it would turn into Redefining Wealth Live, which is so exciting. Coming up in a month now, I will have purpose chasers from all over the world coming to Atlanta to really go deeply into this work now that Redefining Wealth has continued to evolve and create an entirely new continuum and a foundation for not just personal finance success, but for professional growth, personal development, and spiritual growth. Who knew that we would have the Redefining Wealth 90-day pillar planner? Who knew that all these programs and all these clients would come about? I am just incredibly grateful. And listen, we're going to be celebrating all weekend long. So if you catch this on September 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, you are in for a treat. Please come on over to my Instagram in particular, because I'm going to be hosting some lives with your favorite guests from over these 7 years. Confirmed guests so far include Devon Franklin, Brandy Harvey, Carly Harvey Raymond, Nakia Homer, and more surprise guests from just an incredible lineup from the last 7 years. So you don't want to miss that. Come on over to my Instagram page. I'm at Seek Wisdom PCW. Now, it's so ironic that we happen to be in our space month. This is the space pillar month. And our theme for this month is to make space for healing. I wanted to talk about the uncommon ways that I have learned to make space for healing. And I don't think that the space pillar gets enough love, honestly, from folks. You know, last month for People Pillar, we talked about giving voice to truth. And that's always so impactful and so powerful. But let's give voice to truth about how we can create the space to heal in our physical environments, because your physical environment is the container for your healing. It deserves your care. It deserves your attention. It deserves your intention. And I want to talk about how if you are on a healing journey, and I don't care what part of your life you want to heal in, sometimes we think that healing is just about getting to the other side of grief. We think that it has to be, you know, that we're overcoming death or divorce or some type of betrayal or hurt or letdown. But really, sometimes we're just healing our old perceptions, our old ideas, the old indoctrinations that we had around a particular topic or category or place and space in our lives. And there is a lot that physically represents those things. And I want to talk to you this month in particular about how we can create the habits for healing, the space for healing, the container for healing. If you say that there are things that you know, if you're radically honest, are hindering you, are blocking you, let's look at what could represent that hindrance in your physical space. So I'm going to share with you 6 uncommon ways that I've learned to make space for healing. Let's get into the affirmation of the week, and then we'll dive in. This week's affirmation is, detoxing my space is an important part of my healing. I recognize that healing journeys are complex and apply to more than just an emotional cleansing. Allowing myself to cleanse my surroundings of negative energy and clutter is an integral part of the process as well. With intention and mindfulness, I release anything that no longer serves my well-being, creating space for positivity to thrive. Each item removed is a step towards greater clarity and renewal, revitalizing my environment and uplifting my spirit. As I detox my space, I release unnecessary stress and embrace a sense of liberation and empowerment, knowing that I am actively creating a harmonious space for my healing. With each cleansing ritual, I invite fresh energy and healing vibes into my life. I nurture my soul and I foster a sense of more peace. Detoxing my space is an important part of my healing. Okay, so here's the deal. Your physical space plays such a crucial role in your healing process because it will directly influence your mental, emotional, financial, relational, and spiritual well-being. This is not about another decluttering project. I need you to hear me. You really leaning in and getting your space pillar together is not about starting another decluttering project that you don't finish. This is a deeply spiritual process that needs to be connected to a greater why. It needs to be connected to a bigger vision. When you have a vision, when you have a why, when you have a great intention, now these are not little quick things that we want to do on the weekend that we may start, never get around to. And then I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried to go about one of those lofty decluttering projects, you get gung ho, you're amped up. Maybe you've been watching, a Netflix documentary or you saw Hoarders on A&E. You're like, let me get it together. And so you take everything out with the best of intentions. You don't have a plan. You don't have a bigger why. And then you create a bigger mess that you then beat yourself up for. Does that sound familiar? Wherever you are listening, if you have access to the comments, say, Patrice, you hit the nail on the head. That's me. You are not alone, friend. And this is why I want you to know that this is not just about decluttering, right? This is deeply spiritual. It's deeply personal, and it should be connected to a bigger why. So here's the deal. One thing that we've said all 7 years here at Redefining Wealth is that we understand that the space pillar is important because we want to set our lives up to support us. The space pillar is all about setting your life up to support you. That means support your dreams, support your goals, support your vision, support your values, support your family. It is about setting it up to support you. And what I have said for all of these years is that we understand that clutter is the physical manifestation of chaos in our minds. Whenever we find ourselves out of whack and feeling misaligned in any area of our life, more than likely, the physical space that has something to do with that particular pillar is being impacted, and you can see it. Sometimes you can't even give voice to or name exactly everything that you're experiencing. But if you were honest and you took a look around that physical space, you go, oh, I see why I'm stuck in this area. I see why I'm struggling with moving on from a relationship. Okay, I see why I'm struggling with my weight right now, or I'm struggling with my work right now. There's probably something in your physical space. Your surroundings will often mirror your internal state. Whenever you are looking at clutter or any chaotic space, it can typically reflect and also just contribute to the feeling of overwhelm or stress or anxiety. And conversely, a clean, organized environment will promote calm. It will promote clarity. It will promote this empowered sense of control. I used to have a friend that would reference her organized chaos and, oh, I can't find anything if it's like clean. I need things to be junky. Do you? I mean, and we can have honest conversation. Come into the Redefining Wealth app and let's talk about it. Do you actually feel like you're someone who needs to have junk in order to feel in order, in order to feel yourself? Or is that just something that you've learned to cope with? Is it something that you've learned to normalize and doing something different is just uncomfortable? And I know that that is a real thing for many people. So I do not want to dismiss that. I'm not saying that at all. If anything, I really want to encourage you to get support with that, because these are not always projects or tasks that you can take on by yourself. But it is something to consider, right? Is my physical space honestly giving me a reflection of my inner state? Something to consider. The other thing that I want you to know about why it's so important is about energy flow. Physical spaces have energy. Everything is energy. And when we're dealing with mounds of clutter, it can block that flow, even when the clutter is pretty, even when the clutter still has tags on it, even when the clutter was gifted to you by your mom or your mother-in-law or someone from your past. If it is not really contributing to that bigger why, to what you say you want, if it's not supporting you in really going after the things that you desire, it can still block the flow. It doesn't have to be a catastrophe for it to be clutter. It just has to be something that you can't use in this season to get you towards what you say you desire. The reality is that block in energy flow will cause stagnation in your life. You want to be able to keep things flowing, to keep things moving. And having your physical space out of order blocks that. Another thing to consider is just mental clarity. Personally, for me, I find it really difficult to complete a task if things are in disarray. This is why many of you may sit down to do something at your home office desk and you are not even in the kitchen, facing the kitchen, near the kitchen, and just the knowledge of dishes in the sink throws you into something. It becomes a distraction. And so when we can nip those distractions in the bud in advance, then we create the space to think clearly. We create the space to be decisive, to make concrete decisions, and we just naturally feel more mentally balanced. So this is a part of why it's bigger than just a decluttering project, a decluttering mission. This is about your mental clarity. It can also be about emotional release, because so many of us carry so much weight and stuck energy in our stuff. Physical clutter can carry emotional baggage. A lot of the things that we have in our physical spaces are tied to past experiences. They're tied to possibly expired relationships. They're tied to outdated beliefs. And even though we may think that we have moved on, that physical representation of those things are tethering us emotionally to those events. So letting go of these objects could also be like a symbolic release of the old wounds, the betrayal, the hurt, the abuse, the devastation. It doesn't even have to be that deep, but sometimes it can also just be the release of an old dream. It doesn't have to necessarily be that something wrong or bad happened. It might just be that it represents a time in your life that is past and you want to move on. Who is feeling stuck and stagnant in some part of their life right now and needs to hear this? I need you to send me a DM, send me a message and let me know. Sometimes letting go of the physical representation of a season in your life that has expired will create an emotional release that opens up the space for healing. It opens up the space for you to dream a new dream. It opens up the space for you to experience something positive in place of that, something new, fresh, positive. It indicates I embrace the future instead of I'm holding on to the past. And then the last thing I wanted to share about why this is so important, and it's not a decluttering project, it's deeply spiritual. It's just empowering to do, because many of us have been accustomed to whining and complaining about what we don't like about our spaces, but then we don't do anything about it. What good is it to know it if we're not going to own it? And again, this is where if you don't have the capacity to do it alone, ask for support. Whether that be for paid support because you hire an organizer, or you hire some type of professional support, or you ask some friends to be with you for 6 hours on the weekend to just make progress in an area. You want to be empowered, because if you can make these decisions to release things in your physical space, that will ripple into other parts of your life where you can become more decisive, where you can let go of things, where you can let go of the relationship. You can let go of the job that is sucking your soul dry. You can let go of the old beliefs that just don't align for you. You can let go. So organizing and clearing your space, it does give you a sense of agency, a sense of power and control over your environment. So your physical space is foundational in your healing journey. It is paramount in your ability to redefine wealth. Because for everything, this is the thing, the pillars are only supposed to be of support to you on your path to the goal, to the vision, to the thing that you say you desire. Without you having a vision, the pillars have nothing to support you with. And you knowing what that vision is allows you to take a look at each one of these pillars and make sure that the space is set up to represent what needs to be healed in order for you to achieve that vision. So I want to share with you 6 maybe uncommon ways, because I think every time I hear about space in general, people just want to talk about beautifying or decluttering, and those things are important. But I want to talk about specifically what I have done and what I continue to learn to do. And of course, in the book, Redefine Wealth for Yourself, which I can't believe I didn't say that at the beginning, but in the book, Redefine Wealth for Yourself, it's essentially a step-by-step guide, right, on how to move these things forward. And in the section on space, which is the third section, there's so many different ideas and thoughts and rituals and suggestions on how you can go about really up-leveling your space piece by piece by piece. But I wanted to talk about this one in terms of pillars, because over these last few years, of course, my life has evolved so much. You know, when I started the podcast, I was a married woman, right? Now I'm not. And when I started the podcast, I had a small child, right? She was, or smaller. So she was 10 years old. Reagan is now 17. And when I started the podcast, I was living in California. Now I live in Georgia. When I started the podcast, I was in my 30s. Now I'm in my 40s. Like, there are just so many differences. And so as I have evolved as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a mother, so many of these things have continued to shift. And I just use this as a foundation to always be checking in and aligning and realigning. So if we were to do it by the pillars, here's one that stands out to me for the fit pillar. Number 1, becoming your best self. I want to speak specifically about working out, because as a woman of a certain age, you know, your body starts to shift. You know, I went into the pandemic one size, honey, and came out a whole nother size. Parts of my body grew. I actually met my grown woman body in 2021. I was like, who is she? This is my first time ever seeing her. And initially, it caused a lot of disruption because I didn't know what to do with her. I didn't know what to do with more curves. I had been relatively thin and in some seasons stick figure like for a long time. Like I may have had a teeny tiny curve, but I definitely wouldn't be considered curvy. Even though I had always been working out, because I was learning my new body and learning how to embrace and love her, there was some healing that had to be done with just even my workout clothes. Isn't that wild? Just even my workout clothes. It really became important for me to get rid of all of the ugly workout clothes, any tattered t-shirts, any raggedy shoes, because I needed to show up feeling like I completely loved the process because I was learning to love this new body. So I needed to clear out and make space for new. At the time, I discovered the brand Women's Best. And it's still one of the workout brands that I wear the most, but also now I love Sanita. I was introduced to them by Lacey Green, who's a friend of the podcast, and also going to be at Redefining Wealth Live again for the second year in a row. Lacey is incredible, but Lacey introduced me recently to Sanita, and I also love their workout clothes. But it's not just to be cute at the gym. It's not just to be cute for others. In order to heal my relationship with my body and with this new version of myself, I had to remove all the raggedy stuff because that was giving me a representation of how I felt at the time. Like, what is this? I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm busting out of everything. I don't feel good in anything right now. And if you remember, for those of you who've been around for a while, it was around that time, 2021, my 40th birthday episode, where I said that I was throwing some numbers out. There were some numbers that I no longer wanted to control me. And one of them was the number on the scale. I just would not be a prisoner to the number on the scale. But there was still physical things in my space that I had to deal with and reconcile in order to heal in this area. So making sure that my workout clothes are cute and look good makes me feel good despite the number on the scale. Because to this day, it's still drastically different than it was when I went into the pandemic. And I remember Egypt Sherrod, my girlfriend, you may know her from Married to Real Estate on HGTV. Egypt was on the podcast years ago now. And she talked about to treat yourself right. She learned to stop working out in raggedy clothes and sleeping in raggedy clothes, because this is a physical representation of how we see ourselves. Now, you might say, oh, I just do it because it's comfortable. But then do you allow other people to just treat you like you're comfortable, like you're easy? And I don't mean easy in that sense. You guys know what I'm saying. But like, I'm not hard to deal with, but I'm also not easy. I have standards. I have requirements. And that starts with how I treat myself, even in this area. So that might be something for you to consider as you're thinking about your fit pillar and what you want to heal in that area. Can I be honest with you? I really don't believe anything changes in those pillars until you are willing to take radical action. And sometimes that means you have to get out of the comfort zone that is your house right now. I want to invite you to Redefining Wealth Live. Take radical action and come and join me live in person, October 6th through 8th, because this is going to be a transformative experience like no other. This is not a business conference, so we're not loading this with all the how-tos and to-dos and just strategy. This is about your soul. Redefining Wealth Live is a vibrant gathering of spirit-led, like-hearted purpose chasers who come together to awaken, redefine, and actualize wealth in every area of their lives. The goal is to move you from autopilot to authenticity. So I want you to picture yourself leaving, not just inspired, but transformed. In our deeply connected community, we go beyond talking. We collaborate, we apply actionable insights, we work on our scripts, we get in our wisdom circles and really talk about our individual next steps. This is an unparalleled connection. There is clarity and confidence in that room that you want to apply to your life. You need this in order to bring your vision to life. So this is the room you want to be in, October 6th through 8th. I want to invite you to go to redefiningwealthlive.com right now to secure your spot.
That's redefiningwealthlive.com right now. And when you do, you'll have access to our next bonus co-created connection call where you can learn from me well before the event and also start to connect with other attendees. You don't want to miss this. redefiningwealthlive.com.
In the people pillar, obviously going through a divorce, for me, I wanted to heal how I saw romantic relationships and what was possible for me. And so in my physical space, even after I separated, I hadn't necessarily removed all the things that represented that relationship. There were just things that I needed to do in my physical space to heal in the people pillar. There's kind of two things. I want to give you a 2-for-1. So one thing I had to do was purge digital contacts and photos. Going through your phone, going through your social media, removing contacts, followers, friends who no longer align with your values or contribute positively to your life. Like there always, when you go through breakups, there are people who like to choose sides. They decide to choose a side, whether they know all of the facts and details or not. And instead of passing by their numbers, passing by their names in the phone, like allowing myself to be hurt or sad or frustrated or downright angry that I felt like there were people who I had given to for so many years while in that relationship, and then they just dropped me. But instead of looking at their names over and over again, if they're not calling me, texting me, or checking on me, and I don't really have a desire to try to force anything, why am I keeping them energetically in my phone, in the device that is with me more than anything else? Your phones are always with you. Our phones are always with us. So why am I keeping their contact, keeping all their photos? I'm not saying just to get rid of everything, but I did learn from my now partner that it's beneficial to just have a hard drive where if you don't necessarily want to delete things forever, you can at least get it off your present phone and have it somewhere where if you need to access it, cool, you have it, but you don't have to pass by it. Because one of the things that could be really hurtful or frustrating, I don't know about your phone, but sometimes my phone does the like picture of the day type of thing, or tries to remind you of a certain time, this time 7 years ago, this time 5 years ago. And some of that stuff is just not supportive to your healing. So in the people pillar, that could be worth doing, but also back to just setting up your bedroom for love. In my case, learning that it was okay to remove photos of my daughter, not very sexy, doesn't really put you in a romantic mood, but we had photos of my daughter when she was a baby in our bedroom. And I had to learn that that probably wasn't really supportive of sexy time. I'm not going to lie. And then just other things in the space, I replaced a lot of images with these silhouettes. I got them on Etsy actually. And they were just these like outlines and silhouettes of a man and a woman embracing, holding hands, just loving one another, really tasteful and really just representative of the soft and kind and intentional type of love that I desired. So I removed any photo that didn't represent that. I also just put like statues, small statues that you could get from TJ Maxx or Amazon or any place where they were like a man and woman embracing, again, showing kind, tender love, gentleness. I put those types of images around me. I balanced the room with lamps on both sides of the bed. Didn't realize that that was a big deal, but I was looking at something that had to do with a feng shui expert, and I realized there was only a lamp on my side of the bed because I would read at night, but we didn't even have 2 lamps. And then I looked in one of the drawers and all of my ex's ties, tons of ties, were just still in this drawer. And so there were remnants of his presence that I needed to release in order to be okay with moving on. So depending on what you're trying to heal and what your vision is, so it's what we're trying to heal, but it's also what our vision is for what we say we desire. You may need to do some things in the physical space to set you up for that. Now, in the faith pillar, I've been pretty consistent about that. Like, no matter whether we lived in a small apartment or a big house, creating a meditation space or a prayer corner has always been important. There was a time when I didn't have a whole room. Now I have an entire bedroom. And for years now, I've had an entire room that's literally just my prayer space, a designated, peaceful, clutter-free area where my prayers are up on the wall, scriptures that I want to remember are up on the wall, reminders of times that I feel like God has answered prayers, kind of vision board inspiration, all my prayer journals, any spiritual books that I have, or very deeply transformational books, aromatherapy type things. I now have a room for that. But there was a time when those things lived on a tray under my desk. And my office, when we lived in an apartment in California, my office was basically the sunroom. It had no doors. It was just kind of open concept. And I kept this tray, a beautiful little mirrored tray that I got from Home Goods, my favorite place. And it had a candle on it. It had my prayer journal at the time. It had this little block that had something that said, my prayers are not always answered on time, but they're answered in time or something. It was something like that. But all of these things that were just representations, but I just would pull that tray out. I would get up before anybody else and I would go into that space, put my headphones in with my praise and worship music, pull that tray out, have my time, and then blow the candle out and put the tray right back under my desk. And that just is still a practice. I wouldn't even say that that's uncommon because you guys have probably heard me talk about that. As a matter of fact, there's a YouTube video where when my prayer room was in my closet of one of my last homes, I shared the whole closet and what was in the setup with you on YouTube. It's probably from 2018, but I just say that to say that that has remained pretty consistent, but having a designated space for you to pray, for you to journal, for you to meditate, no matter where it is, even if it's in your car and you have to have a little kit that you pull out that glove compartment box, do what you have to do. But you want to create the space for you to evolve in terms of your faith. And then I'm just going to go to work pillar. Work pillar, oh my goodness. The question that I asked myself at one point was, is this room where you allow everything to go and die the space of a person who wants to be a best-selling author? And it's so important for us to, again, think about what the vision is that we have for our careers, for our business, for our entrepreneurial journey, and look at the space associated with it. If your home office, if your cubicle, if your corner office at that job is full of unnecessary paperwork, if it's full of outdated files, if it's just full of items that no longer serve your professional goals, something has to change. I remember reading Dr. Patrice Buckner Jackson. She has been on the podcast and she is also a graduate of all of my programs, P2P, which is Purpose to Platform, Command the Stage, Mastery Momentum. And she's just out there crushing it. She's a burnout expert. And PBJ talks about when she had that defining moment, being overwhelmed and at the brink of burnout at one of her jobs in higher education, and how the office was beautiful, the type of office that you would pray for in her career path, in her industry. But underneath her desk were papers piled up, and they represented how overwhelmed she actually was by this title that she had prayed for. And I can't tell you how much I've heard that from different women that I have coached throughout these years, that while they may have the appearance of success and they are living the dream that they prayed for, their workspace has represented how overwhelmed, how overworked, how unfulfilled at times they have actually felt, even with the title and the pay raise and the perks. This is a telltale sign about whether you are still in a space that is aligned for you or if it's time to do something different. And this isn't just in the physical space. Many of us also need to do some type of digital detox. And I'm right there with you right now in this very moment. I need to do a digital detox of my email inbox. Desktop, I'm fine. Most files, I'm definitely fine. I went through a season where I've been having to release a lot or deciding to release a lot this year anyway. So it put me on the path of streamlining some things. Like we had files in Google Drive, we had files in Dropbox, We had files here and there. And I just took a weekend and really, I had my virtual admin do a transfer of all of our stuff from Dropbox and put it into Google Drive because I was paying for the Macs for both, which didn't make sense. And then we started to reorganize things into the different shared drives. And that is a work in progress. But oh my gosh, the way that it freed me up to think more clearly about even some things that I plan on introducing for the very first time at Redefining Wealth Live. Even when we're not thinking about it, this clutter that we're dealing with, whether it's physically in our space or digitally, is impacting our ability to do our best work. It is impacting our ability to approach our work with a clear mind. It is damaging our ability to approach our work with energy and passion and enthusiasm. Because if we spend most of the day looking for things, sifting through files, trying to figure stuff out, man, it is such a waste of time. Even for us this year, I'll tell you something else that we've done is really set and stuck to our naming conventions for our files. So now, because of how we name the files in my Google Drive, when I'm looking to do something or looking to find something, I don't have to look all day. You guys, it used to take 5 minutes to find one document because everyone on the team would save something differently. And so getting down to using these naming conventions and taking that over to my CRM and to our Canva and using it in Google Drive. Oh my gosh, what a time saver. And it's actually allowed me to launch more things successfully this year and just create the space to think more thoroughly through what is next for us. So I really want to encourage you, if that's an area for you, to do some healing in that place, because that healing that I've done in the work pillar is actually why we were able to bring back Command the Stage last month. I felt freed. I felt released. I felt like it was time. But I also know I had to clean up some clutter and heal some past work pillar related things in order to create the space for that. Hey, podcast family, big news. I've just launched a game-changing app designed exclusively for you. It is officially the Redefining Wealth app with Patrice Washington. Now, all of my courses, coaching, live streams, and most importantly, my community are just a tap away, all under one roof. You can download the app now for seamless access to exclusive content and a vibrant community of purpose chasers from all over the world. This is the ultimate hub for all things Patrice Washington and all things Redefining Wealth. You can search for it in your app store or find the link at redefiningwealth.app. That's redefiningwealth.app. Do not miss out. Your journey to redefining wealth just got a whole lot easier. Download the app today and let's take this adventure of redefining wealth for ourselves to the next level together. And then the last one is, of course, the money pillar. And this is about managing your finances wisely and attracting the abundance you desire. And here's what I want you to know about this one. If you are having any type of financial challenge in this moment, something I would like to submit to you, and I've been saying this, I think I said it in my first book, which came out in 2012, and I maintain it. If your financial life is out of control, the first place to look is your financial documents. If you can't find financial records, bills, statements, if things are all over the place, and or if you are holding on to financial statements and documents and bills that represent old seasons of your life, even though you have moved on, gotten a new job, live in a new place, you're still holding on to all of these old documents. Some of it may be you holding on to old stories related to who you were at that time. And if we want to release past financial trauma, past financial guilt, past financial mistakes, then let's release the physical documents that go with it. If you shred them and organize them on a computer or on a drive, wonderful. But to hold the physical paper, especially if there's really no legal reason that you're doing so, you're keeping the energy stuck in your financial life. You're keeping the energy stuck. You're holding on to this idea that you're not good with money. That's why you have to hold all these things. You're holding on to this idea of people try to get over on me. And so maybe there was a reason that you felt beholden to hold on to something many years ago, but now you're still doing that and it just doesn't serve you. Guaranteed, if you are feeling any type of angst in your financial life, look at your financial documents, look at the system that you have for them or lack thereof, and start there. Because whenever we have a clear understanding of where we are with our finances, even when we're not happy with what the debt amount is, we're not happy with the credit report number, we're not happy with the balance in the bank account, even knowing what it is and knowing that you have the power to do something different is what begins the healing journey in that area. It is a start. And the second piece to that is when you have a grip on what these things are and what you actually have access to, it can lead to you just being able to clear out the unnecessary subscriptions or memberships or expenses that no longer align with your financial goals. Remember, all of this comes back to what is the current vision that you have? Because when you know what the vision is, you can take a look at the space around you and determine whether that is leading you closer to this vision or if it's a distraction and detrimental to that vision. Once you know, you have the power to own something. And I love what next week's guest, Nikki Klug, says. Your space is the container for healing. I'm so excited for you to hear that episode because Nikki is an award-winning designer and she helps people in this area so often create the space for their healing. And that conversation is just incredible. But these are all just things that I want you to consider. I want you to understand that we have not made it 7 years, 20 million downloads, so many clients through these programs, so many people served because this stuff doesn't work. We've made it this far because it's not just about, has it changed my life? It's changed your life. And even when you say, well, Patrice, my bank account hasn't changed. This is what I often remind my clients, especially in mastery and momentum. But the seeds that you've been planting, how do they allow you to show up when life happens now? The things that used to take you out, they used to frustrate you for months, they used to shut you down. Now they may shut you up for a day. You may need a moment to gather yourself. But the fact that you are still here, still standing, we've been through a pandemic together. We've been through so many changes together. We entered a new decade together. There are just so many things that have happened. Good, bad, indifferent. There are just so many things. And look at how you are showing up. Think about how before you started listening to this podcast, how you might respond to people, how you might respond to something coming up in your life, whether you even had a vision, whether you even believed you can dream a new dream. These are baby steps. This doesn't happen overnight. The reason that you come back week after week is because we need the repetition and we need the integration. This is how we continue to grow. And this is how we do it as a community. So we're 7 years in now, you guys. And if you haven't leaned in closer, if you haven't said, well, let me download the Redefining Wealth app, let me come follow Patrice on social media, Seek Wisdom PCW on Instagram. Why are you holding yourself back? Why are you being aloof? Why are you peeking in when this work, this process, using these pillars have literally been changing people's lives? I have seen people go from Section 8 housing to living in a neighborhood where their kid could run around freely and taking themselves off food stamps. I'm just telling you real stories. I've seen people go from saying, I feel invisible in my workplace, in my corporate job, to I literally have had multiple raises and promotions. I'm one of the most visible Black women in my organization now since being a part of this community. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. I've seen someone go from being hurt and crying on every coaching call because of a really difficult divorce to literally inviting me to their wedding with the love of their life now. I have seen it all. And these pillars will support you no matter what the vision is. You can pivot. Your purpose can evolve. You can dream a new dream. Everything that you desire can come to fruition, but you need a system and a process for how you will process life. And you understanding that it's important to make space for healing is important to that endeavor. So I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It would bless me tremendously if you would rate and review the podcast. Even if you did it years ago, guess what? You can do it again now. Please give me that gift for my 7-year anniversary. I am so grateful to all of you who listen so diligently, who encourage me to continue to keep going, who share with your friends and family, who share in social media and tag me. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. It is an honor to use my imperfect life in a perfect way. I don't have to be perfect. You don't make me be perfect. You know, I'm only here to be your sister girlfriend and a guide. I'm not here to be your guru, and you receive me and accept me as I am. And I receive and accept you as you are, no matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe, who you love. I love you, and I'm so grateful to serve you. With that, I will see you next week. Make sure you join me on Instagram this weekend. Catch me on one of these lives with our very special guests. They are all past guests of the Redefining Wealth podcast who are helping me celebrate our 7 years. And if you haven't gotten your ticket to Redefining Wealth Live, I would love to see you there. It is exactly a month from this weekend. So redefiningwealthlive.com. Get your ticket. There's still time, and I can't wait to serve you and hug you there. Until next time, I want you to live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever feeling like you have to chase money.